Welcome back to another episode here on the Hard and Hustle podcast. This next guest straight to the pulpit for the front lines, now leading one of the border's boldest nonprofits. Listen, Tim, I ask you the first question. You spent decades in the pulpit and emergency response. When did you know the call was actually shifting? Do you remember that time?
Yeah, it was a year ago. Thanks for having me, by the way. About a year ago, I got approached to consider this. It was not even remotely on my radar. I had thought about through the years, what would I do if I didn't do the pulpit? I guess maybe a nonprofit, but it got brought to me about a year ago by the founder of the organization. And when he brought it to me, I didn't know much about the organization. And so I spent about a week doing research. And I came back and I said, what the heck makes you think I am remotely qualified to do this? Because it's just such an expansive organization. And it was a wrestle. It was really a wrestling with God in there too. And my wife was helping me along with this and some friends. But of course, it was very close to the vest. Talked to several people about it, and it just kept having opportunities coming up. And when I would pray, the sense that I would get from God would be, I would say, what am I supposed to do? Do I stay here at the church that I love? Do I look at moving here? And God would say, what would you like to do? And I hate it when God does that. But finally, essentially, God gave me a save the date card because I got invited to come out and do something church related on the same weekend where it would make sense for me to interview with the organization. So I said, okay, there we go. That's it. And so I talked to people about it. It was really kind of funny. I had my actual interview on Zoom with the whole selection team while I had COVID, and I
Oh
still
my.
became the single finalist. And so it was wonderful.
It was
So
meant to be.
it was just absolutely meant to be, and I have a blast here. Most days I can't believe I get to do this.
I mean, you said you a year ago this all kind of changed for you. What have you learned in a year about yourself and being into this space?
I've learned that I love challenges. I love having to get creative. Um, since around late January, February, we get about 55% of our income comes from federal or state grants. And usually the state
Hmm.
grants are federal grants sent through the state. So everything's kind of been up in limbo since then. And someone asked me the question, what is it that gets you up in the morning? And I took the question seriously and really thought about it at that point. Because you
Hmm.
usually have some sort of a pat answer. And I thought about it and I thought, wow, I am really getting energized by the opportunity to be creative and lead an organization, help lift people's spirits, help us go in the direction so we can keep helping people. And so those challenges really get me going in the morning.
I ask you, Tim. You walked into a legacy organization like
Mm-hmm.
Project Vida a year ago. Were you scared to lead something so storied? Like this has to be at some point just a little nerve wracking. They called upon you for a certain reason. You know why that reason's for. You have these talents, but even when you know your worth and understand the value you bring, you got to still be scared of an organization like this that has a huge legacy. Was there any moment that you thought, "Why am I here? I can't do this"?
There are a lot of times where I thought, I can't believe I'm here. This is so amazing. This is like a fantasy come true. And they're nerve-wracking times, to be sure. When you start, not because I'm Tim, but because I'm heading this incredible organization that's been here, I get access and I get invited into a lot of different spaces. And so when you have members of the US House and the Texas House reaching out to you to have meetings, um, when you get invited to sit on panels, uh, I was on a Federal Reserve Bank, the Fed Listens panel last week, and it was amazing. I was there alongside folks from Microsoft, the Hispanic Chamber, our local major food distribution organization. And sometimes at that point I go, what am I doing here? But it's more of like a, I can't believe I get to do this many cool things. We're getting to go out last week, this week, next week. We get to go out and talk about how micro enterprise is going to be doing research alongside the University of Texas at El Paso and other partners, including the county, and figure out who are the micro enterprises in our communities and what do they need. And it's just amazing. You get to go do these press conferences, people show up, and you get to tell them how much their community matters. And I get the fun job of saying thank you over and over and over again.
Yeah. This is 50 years, man. 50 years of impact this organization has. What are some of the things that you guys, so people that are listening can actually understand more of the services? What are some of the services you guys provide for the community?
So one of the earliest things, so I guess I should go back and say our founders that I took over from got here about 45 years ago. The organization was going in some form or another for 5 to 10 years before that. Records are a little bit sparse, but they started off in the Chamizal neighborhood in south central El Paso, the poorest zip code in the United States at the time, and still second poorest. So they went around, they had community congresses, asked people what they want, and that's always been our driving force. What does the community understand that it needs in order to rise up, succeed, be prosperous, be proud of who they are? And over time, our community continues to grow wider and wider and wider, but that's always the way that we do it. So early on, it was abuelas and tias that were saying our kids are going out in the street, they're getting in trouble, and we need activities for them to do. We need people to help us with childcare during the day, and we need after school programs. So those were some of the first things we did. So today we have we have a couple early childhood centers, and we have after school programs, including the Best Buy Teen Tech Center and programs at, I think we're at about a half dozen different school locations right now. We see about 500 children and youth each week that we look after. So that's education. We're helping them. And it's exciting, like our Best Buy Teen Tech Center kids are getting to go to Geek Squad Academy. Earlier this year, they got to take their robots and they got to go compete in a national robotics competition down in San Antonio. And so it's just really cool to see these things come up. We have housing, one of the first things that we did because they said that they needed housing. And it was a number of white people in a heavily Mexican-American, Mexican neighborhood. And so it looked like it was white savior complex, people coming in just from the outside, do some good things, make themselves feel better and move on. And so we bought apartment buildings and made them affordable housing very early on. Wow. So now we have about 300 housing units, 7 different apartment complexes, a lot of scattered site housing. And we work in partnership with a lot of different federal and state agencies on that. We have a federally qualified healthcare center, and that sees about 15,000 patients each year. We have 5 different brick and mortar locations, and we have about 30 campus-based locations where we see people for primary care, acute, chronic, and especially behavioral. And that goes in with another part of our program. We're just finishing up our first year of being the only community-based, intentionally bilingual psychiatric residency program in existence. So this is worldwide as far as we can tell. There are places where they will bring people in and you're going to have to speak the language. You're going to learn it. Yeah. But we do it intentionally. And this is to create providers who will stay in our community and who want to do community-based healthcare. So in addition to seeing all the folks with diabetes, and we see folks with anxiety, depression, it just runs the absolute gamut of the things that we cover. And we have this amazing staff that do this in its Association of Graduate Clinical Medical Education. That's the accrediting body for internship programs. So they've accredited us. We have a community development financial institution that has done about $1.2 million in loans over the last year. We have helped about 300 micro and small enterprises. We are partnering with chambers, cities, communities. Out here, bounce houses are called Brinca Brinca. And so we have a number of folks. It's just a local thing. As near as I can tell, it's not even a Spanish word that people in interior Mexico know. It's just a local thing. And so, one of my favorite stories is a couple that wanted to get a side gig going, and they just needed $2,000 to get a Brinca Brinca business up and going, so they could take bounce houses out to different people and offer that service. And so we were able to approve that, and this is their side hustle. And everyone needs a side hustle. And
Yeah.
almost all of our micro enterprise technical assistance experts, they are people that have side hustles. They own stores. One of them gets trained in Guadalajara to do her floral arrangement business in Juarez while she lives in El Paso. And we have a lot of stuff like that.
I love it, man. This
Yeah,
is cool
I
stuff.
know I'm forgetting other things, but that
There's a
kind of
lot.
gives
No, there's
you
a lot to
some of
name.
the, yeah.
And then when you say brinca brinca, it means jump jump. So it makes sense why they call it brinca brinca. That's what you're doing in the bounce house. You're jumping.
Thank
No, I
you.
love it, man.
Yeah.
I love that you guys are helping at almost all aspects of the community, from the bottom tier to helping people start their side businesses, right? That's truly making an impact into communities for those that may just need that little push to kind of keep going over that hill. That you guys do that, but even those that are the bottom of the hill, that you guys are pushing them to get to the top of the hill, to get over the hill, and you leave, as we mentioned, the pulpit, right? What do you think that really sets you up for to be here? Because I always feel like there's always something to learn from your past experiences or from that past, career path, as we may say.
Right.
But there has to be something there that you still today just it sits with you, and even the work that you're doing out in the community. Is there anything that comes to mind?
It teaches you to be adaptive and to learn to learn. So I've worked with a lot of boards. I've led the boards. I've been on the boards. So I already knew a lot of that stuff. I've worked with
Hmm.
community organizations, been on those boards, helped do direct response, feeding people, getting them Walmart gas cards
Hmm.
when the federal government shut down, but they were required to keep showing up for work. um, it's a lot of people management. It's a lot of leadership, and I think about it in the community I came from, San Angelo. There was a surprising number of folks that went from being theater majors to leaders of nonprofits. And it's the same sort of idea, because you learn project management, you learn how to get along with people, you learn how to speak in front of people, and you learn how to take something from the very beginning to the end. And when you're done with it, you have to let go of it because you
Yeah.
tear down the set, right? And that's the
Hmm.
way it goes with all these projects. So being a pastor is a lot of that. And it's accompaniment,
Hmm.
and accompanying people. That's part of what we do. We accompany our community into growing into what it can possibly be.
And when you talk about earlier, you just mentioned just that technology piece, and right now we're in a space where we have to innovate. As nonprofits, feel like nonprofits in healthcare are usually those last to really integrate to the new technology.
Right.
Newest one being AI, and a lot of people say AI faith, AI community may not go together. But what is your thoughts, Tim, that AI could actually be a resource to an organization like yours and other organizations, but there's still that fear. How do you guys think about AI? Are you guys dipping your toes in it, looking around the corner for it? What is your thoughts?
We're dipping our toes into it. Actually, last night, we just approved our AI use policy with the Project Vida Health Center board. So we have that in place right now. My communications director and I are the only ones using it. We have to be really careful because of private information. We want to make sure that
Mhm.
that doesn't go into someone's data set and get harvested and have unforeseen consequences, let alone breaching privacy and the trust that people have put in us. But I think that it's really good. I've used it to help perfect documents, to help get started. Sometimes it brings out what you need, sometimes it doesn't. And it's never something that you use all by itself. It's like Wikipedia, right?
Mhm.
Um, you use it to get farther than you could all by yourself. And so AI can go in there. We're getting ready to also pilot some AI as we use it for our physicians, being able to take notes. They've now gotten to the point, the biggest challenge, because they've been at the point where they could do speech recognition for a while.
Mhm.
The biggest challenge was having a system that could do Spanish, English, and Spanglish. And so we now believe we have those resources in hand, and we're going to start piloting it with our chief medical officer and probably with our residency director so that we can see how it works, if it's working. 18 months ago, I was at a gathering for community health centers, which is what we call the local mental health authorities in the state of Texas. And we heard from people from Penn State there about how far along everything had gotten, how you could put it into different people's voices, not just you could capture the sense of the community, and you could capture a politician's perspective on something, and so it kind of gives you something to also push back on, right?
Yeah.
Because you can say here are the 6 talking points we're going to go talk to our state senator about with the funding bill that relates to teen pregnancy prevention. And here is the person we're going to go talk to based on everything that they've said to this point in their career that you can access. What are most likely going to be their responses to these things? And so you can start seeing where there are likely bridges, and then you have to develop that.
Mhm.
It's not something where you can just turn it over to the computer and it's done. None of this works that way. I was talking with my daughter's physics professor a couple years ago, and he was saying that he tells his students, go use AI. You will be
Yeah.
using it just like math. No one does math without a calculator anymore. It's just not what's expected.
If the Hard and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure to guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. Well, Tim, they used to tell us that, hey, you have to learn math a different way because you'll never have a calculator in your pocket.
Right.
But now that's completely wrong. There's a calculator in your pocket at all times. And I really want to tap what you're saying because it's just a new generation and things are
Mhm.
completely different. And
Right.
I was talking to my neighbor and he was mentioning seeing these kids know before even knowing how to talk or walk that they can maneuver a cell phone, how to unlock a cell phone, how to go to YouTube and all these different things. I said, you know what? Those are the young leaders that we need when it comes to technology because they understand it way more than what we do, right?
Right.
I mean, I think about just a couple of years ago, we had an iPod, we had a two-way, we had all these different things, and now no one carries around an iPod. You just have music on your phone now. Like all these things that we had, multiple devices are all in one. So yeah, man, technology is moving very, very fast, and I'm happy to know that you guys are kind of adapting to the AI, but also figuring out how do we make it that is safe, not just for others, but for us as an organization. But I think that we're in a space as well, Tim, and you're probably seeing this with some of your colleagues or even other leaders, is that they're truly living in fear. They're just in survival mode. What are some of the tips and tricks that you could provide others that want to scale but are kind of still living in this fear bubble?
I would say that we've got a lot of fears with economic uncertainty, political uncertainty, funding uncertainty. The market's going up and down. Right now, it's up. That's great. My
Hmm.
retirement fund is happy. Um, but we don't know that that's going to stay the case.
Correct.
So we have to accept that there are risks. We have done hard things before. We got through COVID. Most
Correct.
organizations made it through COVID. We had to pivot almost immediately, figure out how to do what we're doing right now, communicating on
Hmm.
Zoom. And it created this incredible opportunity. My family's never been closer than after we all got isolated in our homes. We couldn't go travel to each other. So we set up Sunday afternoon check ins and we would get everyone in the family. We had an 80th birthday party for my dad while we were caught up in this.
Hmm.
And we were able to have almost 50 people show up and give testimonials. I was able to record it. We could have it transcribed.
Oh,
It was
cool.
just amazing. I mean, it's
Sure.
this opportunity. So it's, I mean, the old adage about how crisis means dangerous opportunity in Chinese, right? I have no idea if that's true or not, but I love the story. So it's this dangerous opportunity. We have people that haven't been tapped. We do have a lot of concentration of wealth in fewer and fewer hands, but we also have a lot of folks that are seeing the need to get involved. We're talking in our organization about how do we create a civil society that's fully engaged again. People just don't engage in the same way they once upon did. Like bowling leagues. People don't do bowling leagues the way they used to. That was a way that you could meet people. Church
Hmm.
doesn't have as many people going to it. That was a place where you could meet people across socioeconomic lines, if not racial lines. You went to these places and you mixed with other people. So this is an opportunity for us to figure out how do we create community? How do we stay connected? How do we collaborate? I'm seeing more and more collaboration with people on Signal. They value those relationships. Everything I hear, people say stay connected. And so these things allow us to stay more connected than we ever have. I, I had no idea that the people I went to high school with were so cool. And now I look forward to seeing the stuff that they have, and we can share as we watch the Tigers do really well in baseball this year, and we can share as we work on peer recovery from substance abuse.
Hmm. That's so good, man. You are right too. Like, if utilized right, all the resources that we have at our fingertips, if utilized right, could really benefit us.
Right.
And it's how do we continue to find that for our organization? I lead an organization now, and it is that is how do we continue to maintain that community long term, because it's out of sight, out of mind. So how do we continue to engage in that way? And I'm finding as I'm taking care of his board now after a year, it's like it was just nothing built for that. Like there was no database. We weren't collecting emails. We weren't just sending message thank you, something as thank you, a thank you message for people to just appreciate, feel appreciated in the sense, right? Inviting them to certain events, and how do we continue to communicate to even build. I was talking to another leader the other day, and I said this later earlier, and I see her writing it down, is in order for us to build long term lasting relationships, we have to be at these chamber conference. Like, why are we not meeting with local people in our
Yeah.
communities, business partners? These are literally business partners. Once you tell your story, once you build a relationship, those are the same people that would invest thousands of dollars to the mission, not just because of the mission, but who you are as an individual, what you stand for, and what the organization stands for. So I think there's a lot of different things that people, low hanging fruit, that people can actually tap into. So thinking about low hanging fruit, Tim. If you can give somebody that one, two things that they can do today that could just maybe get eyes on the organization, or just maybe donors, what does that look like?
Make friends. Make friends and tell your story. Go
Hmm.
out, go to the chamber events like you're talking about. Go meet people at a bookstore. Plug yourself into the local things that are going on. I was just talking with one of my employees about how she was going to get me an invite next time her Hindu temple had something going on because I've never been to a Hindu temple and I would love to.
Hmm.
And we have a mosque here too. I need to get in and meet that community. I've patched in a little bit into the Jewish community. I've been preaching at Presbyterian churches, but it needs to go out farther and farther. And people just love when you reach out, because we're all lonely and we're hungry for
Yeah.
connection and relationship. And if you can do it over something meaningful, that's even better.
Yep. Yep. And that's why I think I may have mentioned this a little earlier, but when I had a neighbor yesterday tell me like, "Man, am I going to be an electrician forever?" And I don't know. I said, "Hey, you don't know until you try something different." But because I speak to nonprofit leaders and I see all these transitions from a judge, that was in a courtroom to go to a nonprofit and love it and say, "Hey, it wasn't about the money; it's about the purpose that chasing that." So I tell this man, I said, "What do you love?" If it's being an electrician, I'm pretty sure nonprofits could utilize your services and get 5-10 hours a week goes a long way. But not only for the organization, but how you will feel. But even in that sense, the relationships that are being built. Now, someone that's seeing this electrician on property, oh, I need an electrician at my home. Like in reality, is how do we continue to sell the story and realize that we're all in partnerships? When someone walks into one of our establishments, that is a community member. How do we not only help them, but how do they help us in a sense, right? When you're getting a board together, getting board members that actually make sense for your organization, not just someone that's taking up a seat, but someone that adds value. I think there's just so many different things that when I look at organizations from just the outside perspective, I see they could do better. And Tim, everything you just mentioned is completely on par. Like find different communities to be a part of because it's not just about the community you live in, it's even further than that, right? The whole world is kind of in a situation of fear. So today we're just talking to every single person. But if you're actually talking to your community, what information do you give them when they're kind of still walking on eggshells? I can imagine that people don't want to walk out their house. People don't want to go to their checkups anymore. There's so many different things that are happening. What is the message you provide to your community?
So in our community, we saw a small dip in people showing up for their primary care appointments. That came back within about a week or two.
Good.
Surprisingly, um, our community as a border community has always been used to having people go back and forth, and it's just part of the ordinary. What we're seeing is, I was just talking with my property supervisor, and we're getting more vacancies because breadwinners are being deported. And so you have families that are left behind,
Wow.
and they can't make it because, husband was doing the hustle and he was the one that was bringing in the funds, and now he's gone back to Mexico or somewhere else, and the family is looking at having to move back to Juarez. So I think that we have to acknowledge that these are real fears. There is a real fear and a real crisis that's going on out there. We see the headlines in the newspaper, but the fear is out there. The fear will and the anxiety will get in. There people have less babies, for example, during wars. They just have fewer, and so part of that is that anxiety and that fear, and so people are more scared and they're less trusting in the future, which means that they're not thinking long term about their investments, which means our politicians are not thinking long term. And when we're so caught up in fear, we have to be able to take a step back. And that's where I keep coming back to my folks and say, we know how to do hard things. We have done hard things and we will get through this. It's not that this is an easy thing, it's not. But we know how to do this, and we get the opportunity to serve our people with creativity.
Yeah, and I think it's easier said than done when we say this,
Mm-hmm.
but instead of living in fear, living in faith. But what does living in faith look like at this time, Tim? Someone that's kind of been on the other side of the community that, as we mentioned, was a pastor.
So my vision comes from Revelation 21 and 22 and Isaiah 65, which talks about this peaceable kingdom, this place in which people will live out their whole lives. They can, as the Bible says, plant vineyards and enjoy the fruits from them. They will be able to have children not dying in infancy, old people living out their lives with dignity. And this is, in my faith, the future that will surely be. This is what's coming. And we can fight it, we can join in with it, but it's going to happen. And I don't know exactly how that's going to happen, but we get to be a part of making it happen. And so I've been given this one little piece to do. And my little piece is to make sure people are treated with dignity, that they have opportunities, that they have access to health care, to food, to lodging, and to education to further themselves. These are things that I can do. I can't do a lot of the other things. I can write to my congressfolk, but I can't make them pass certain laws. What I can do is what I can do right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So the Bible tells us to love our neighbor, and our neighbors are everywhere around the world, but they're also right in front of us. And that is in some ways harder to deal with. The people that dump their trash, even accidentally, on your lawn, the people that took down the branches, the people that have the parties late at night, loving them and connecting with them. I think that's what we can do. See what's right in front of us and go do it.
Tim, that you said that, I'm going to open up a door right here. So I told my wife about exactly that. If our neighbors, like I'm the type of person, I talk to all my neighbors for the most part, right? And my wife is like, "Oh my God, how do you know all the neighbors?" But I do believe that sometimes the change that you need in your life is right across the street. It is to the left, it's to the right. But we don't talk to those people that lived right next to us for all these years, where we can make an impact in their lives or they can make an impact in our lives. But we'll go to work for 8, 10 hours a day and have these conversations, fake conversations with these people because we're just having work conversations, but not to the people that we speak to next door when we go home. Like to me, it's just kind of mind blowing. But I do feel what happens when communities really come together, if they can just take all their talents, or when we have kids that need to be raised in our neighborhoods, and it is a very trusting, like for me, I've experienced sexual abuse in my life, so my wife was like, never, no one's taking care of the kids, right, other than us and grandma. But I do hear what you're saying, man. I don't think that that's something that we've I've ever grown up thinking, that we just speak to our neighbors. We just go home and that's it. We may wave a little bit, but I love that you said that. That's where we start, is just love your neighbors for who they are and where they are, because those could be the difference of um, even thinking about. I have a neighbor now, and when he leaves, he's always so appreciative because I take care of his dogs. He has two German shepherds, and he just got this new job, and this job required him to travel 2, 3 days. And he's like, "Hey, man, can you take care of my dogs?" I have dogs. I go work out at his house, so it's like nothing. Cool, I go over there, and he's appreciative. But just imagine if we had more of that. How comfortable people will actually feel, and maybe even more safer in communities. Anyway, that's just when you said that, I just thought I had to drop that, Tim, because you're right, dead on. When you just have to love your neighbor, or whatnot. So good stuff, man. Good stuff. Where can people find more of you, Tim, the work that you do, but also what's the website for the organization? Are you guys on social media, Instagram, Facebook? Talk to us.
We are. We have a website and we're about to completely redo it. Should have something new up by the end of the month or first of next month. It's pvida, vida .net. And so that's where we're at. And then we are also Project Vida El Paso on Instagram. I'm an old Gen X person, and my Gen Z millennial communications chief. I have to keep going, post stuff on Facebook, post stuff on Facebook, because it's
That
just
is
not on
true.
his radar, right?
Yeah.
But we're out there. We're on LinkedIn. We're trying to get more of a presence out there. We've been doing some great videos telling stories. Most of it's recently been micro enterprise, but we also have a lot of uh, we have a lot of employee spotlights, and some of
Hmm.
those are done by teenagers at the
Wow.
Best Buy Teen Tech Center. We let them loose. They come and ask whatever questions they want to, and it's kind of fun watching my team because they'll come in, they'll get interviewed, and they'll be like wondering what they're going to get asked. And I love that because it keeps us all on our toes.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And just to get engaged with that youth, man, there's something there when you get to just engage with the next generation, and realizing that we, as much as we're planting seeds, whether we know it or not,
Right.
right? It could be a good seed or a bad seed, and we've seen that happen for us in our lives. So that is so cool that you guys kind of intertwine the both of them to continue the legacy alive per se in what Vida is doing. So shout out to what you guys are doing, man. But are you ready for the blind question?
Oh, go for it.
All right, man. Hot seat time. So what leadership or life belief has truly stayed rock solid for you, even when everything has changed?
It's the importance of community and service to the community. It's our family. I don't know how many generations we go back on this, but we always find places to serve. Now we have a whole family story about my grandfather being president of the school board when everything got consolidated in rural districts. And that was a very unpleasant experience for him and his family because no one wants their school in their neighborhood that they went to and they were little consolidated in. But, I watched my dad as a small business owner be involved, support activities in the community, help pay for things that needed to get paid for, give opportunities to immigrants who were just starting their businesses. And I didn't even know about most of this. It was just part of the background. I just knew that this was going on behind here. I didn't realize how big a deal all of this was, that I was being exposed to this. It's being around all sorts of other people. I grew up in a really lily white community, and my parents had folks that were born slaves at their wedding,
Oh.
and it's always been there. Needing to go out and meet other people, put in travel with some of that. But if you are given a life, you are obligated, and I mean this in the best possible way because I'm a Presbyterian and obligations are a joyful obligation for us.
Hmm.
You are obligated to go and give back what you've got. So I'm Reverend Dr. Whitemale. When I go into school districts with families or with my own kids, and I had special needs kids, I get what I want. So it happens for me. And I've been in meetings where single Hispanic moms with kids with special needs, they were blown off by Hispanic moms who were administrators. There's this whole racism that's just in there that people internalize even against their own community.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
but I walk into the room and I have a presence that I'd never earned. I never earned that, right? And it's my obligation to use that on behalf of people that are marginalized and to show up because my voice gets heard unfairly more than other people's do. And so I need to speak on behalf of those that can't, and more importantly, make the table make space for another chair so people can be sitting there and be seen as full members and participants. You don't have the
Love that.
you don't have the right to just sit self-contained.
Hmm. I love that. I love that answer. You hit on so many different things that people don't talk about, and that's why I love that you were just so honest and just yourself today. But I ask you, what is your blind question when it talks to the next leader? If you can ask the next question, leader here a blind question, what does that look like? Sound like?
I would say, what is the one thing in yourself that keeps you from being the leader you want to be?
Ooh, you getting deep now. You getting deep, Tim. I
Pastor,
love it. Pastor coming out. No, I truly appreciate it. Guys, if you guys have not already shared, subscribed, liked, or comment, make sure that you guys do so. These are the great conversations we have here on the Heart and Hustle podcast. Great leaders like Tim Davenport that just show up and always just want to make a difference. No matter what life looks like for us, we still show up. And I think that's what's so great. God has really chose the strong ones to lead, and we do that even through difficult times. We still find the joy in just of life. what life looks like for us. Even as you mentioned, even if we didn't earn it, we still always appreciative of those moments. We're grateful to be here and be able to do the things that we do. So, Tim, we thank you for the conversation. Guys, this only continues to be beneficial and impactful if you share. So make sure to guys go ahead and tag your favorite leader down below. My name is Efrain. This is Tim. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Laters.
Thank you.